Hi, my name is Christy and I have chosen to present on poverty and its impact on education. What is poverty? So people that come from poverty fall into a low socioeconomic status or low SES. This labelling is identified as social stratification where society is divided into classes. People who face financial disadvantage and struggle to live week by week are living in poverty where life's basics such as food, shelter and heating are hard to come by. The effects of growing up in poverty can have a negative impact on the development of children. These children are less likely to meet basic learning outcomes, which when they're older pass on to the next generation where the cycle of poverty repeats itself as seen in this graphic. Can you think of anyone you may know who might come from a low SES background? Some notable people who have broken the cycle of poverty include Oprah Winfrey. She started her life living with her grandmother, going to school wearing clothes made of potato sacks. She was later sent to another state to live with her father, where she faced domestic violence and sexual abuse from family members over many years. She was excelling in school and ended up receiving a full scholarship to attend university. While studying, she was offered a job as the first African-American female news anchor for her local station. She chose to drop out of her degree and continue in her media career, where she succeeded and became the person she is today. Chennupati Jagadish. Chennupati lived in a small rural village in southern India, facing significant poverty. He regularly completed his homework by the light of a kerosene lamp as he had limited electricity. He loved learning but stopped once he finished primary school as he noticed that he needed to walk 6 kilometres every day to get to his new school. He ended up becoming a professor and made his way to Australia, where he helped to pioneer a new world of nanotechnology. He received an Order of Australia for his service to physics and engineering. Education seemed to play a large role for him, and he is quoted to say, "I feel I owe it to both of the teachers who made such a huge difference in my life." Is there anyone else that you can think of that has broken the cycle of poverty? Sociocultural theories. Social status, when linked to conflict theory, is seen as competition for power. Conflict theory is seen as a division of society where there is a continuous struggle between the two sectors. In this case, it would be low socioeconomic status versus high socioeconomic status. This theory states that those from higher standing and power have more access to resources. Within functionalist theory, everyone has their place in society. We all have our role that contributes to the smooth running of life. Some roles come with a lower status, for example cleaners, where the higher value roles have a higher social status, for example lawyers. As we all have clearly defined roles within this theory, it does not fare too well when there is a rapid social change. Poverty at home. Half the wealth of Australia is concentrated in the hands of only 10% of the population. Poverty is reflected in the following areas of Australian society. Housing Commission or public housing are homes where rent is paid to a state or federal housing authority. This rent is significantly reduced compared to standard housing, and areas of high housing commission tend to be in low SES areas. For example, in Sydney, the majority of public housing is positioned out west. Single parent families. So childcare costs paired with a single income contribute to single parent families falling into poverty. A lack of education. So those who experience persistent poverty through their life attain lower levels of education. And food insecurity, which is a tough choice between spending money on food or other essentials.
In the lucky country, we've got 3.6 million Australians in the last 12 months who are food insecure. 1 in 5 kids. That's not okay in the lucky country. The demand for food relief in this country right now is skyrocketing. We are assisting 652,000 people a month who simply wouldn't be eating if it wasn't for Food Bank. These people are making conscious decisions between heating and eating because they can't do both.
A documentary series on Australian TV network SBS filmed the tribulations and everyday life of several people living in low SES locations. There are currently 3 seasons of this documentary, and if you would like to watch more, there are episodes available on SBS Demand.
The housing estates of Mount Druitt have been hit hard. Chock-a-block with everyday people who've been pushed to the edge.
$400 a week you pay to live in Mount Druitt. For what? For your house to get broken into, your kids to get belted, your car to get stolen. Can't even afford to wipe my with some toilet paper.
With more than a third of the population in public housing in some areas and around 1 in 3 young people unemployed, the area is an easy target for a government hell-bent on welfare cuts and a media hungry for headlines.
Mount Druitt, get it together and stop letting people like us suffer!
Everybody you ask outside about Druitt says, yeah, Mount Druitt's a place to be and all that stuff.
Bougainville.
Yeah.
It is safe to say that poverty in Australia has a significant impact on life for some people, especially life in some schools. There are some stereotypes in education that label those who come from public schools as less likely to achieve anything in life when compared to those from private schools. Satirically, Summer Heights High identifies these stereotypes when Jermaine addresses her new school.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron, for your welcome, and thank you to the traditional landowners of Summer Heights, the Wurundjeri people. My name is Jemie, J-A'-M-I-E. Weird name, I know, but you'll get used to it. Yes, I come from one of the most expensive private girls' schools in the state, but I'm actually really cool. Please don't be intimidated by me. People always go, private schools create better citizens, but I would say they create better quality citizens. Studies have shown that students from private schools are more likely to get into uni and end up making a lot more money, while wife beaters and rapists are nearly all public school educated. Sorry, no offence, but it's true.
Poverty and education. So due to a lack of access for educational resources, students from low SES backgrounds are roughly 3 years behind students from high SES backgrounds. A lack of nutrition has also been linked to a decreased capacity to learn alongside a significant decrease in cognitive function. Those from low SES backgrounds are twice as likely to have a fixed mindset compared to those from a higher SES background, as seen in this image. Low academic achievement and low SES are significant predictors in antisocial behaviour and crime later in life. Currently, we find ourselves in unprecedented times with COVID-19, and we are currently starting to see flow-on effects that directly affect poverty within Australia. Loss of jobs have led to a surge in unemployment and reliance on welfare payments, as well as an increase in domestic violence as perpetrators are forced to isolate with their victims. We also see closure of schools, which affect the emergency food and breakfast clubs, and we can see limited to no educational resources at home for students who are learning online. So, implications of complex theory on education. According to theorist Althusser, this theory comes into play through education. Those of lower SES status are not encouraged to continue education and depart early, as opposed to those from a higher SES, who stay in school longer and are encouraged to continue further education. Although theorists Bowles and Gintis argue that education systems are part of a hegemony where elite groups control institutions to maintain the status quo, those coming from lower SES backgrounds find themselves in schools where they are told their educational success is due to a lack of talent rather than lack of resources or intervention. There are some international policies that regard education. For example, the Convention on the Rights of the Child in Article 28 states that primary education should be compulsory and free to all, and encourage the development of secondary education, including vocational, by taking appropriate measures such as the introduction of free education and offering financial assistance in this case of need. In Australia, we have a Declaration for Better Education, and this is known as the Alice Springs Education Declaration, which now supersedes the Melbourne Declaration. It sets a precedent for the future of Australia's children and is a commitment to bettering opportunities for all students. In particular, Goal 1 states that Australia's education system promotes excellence and equity. This means that the Australian Government will work with the education community to provide all young Australians with access to high-quality education that is inclusive and free from any form of discrimination. What is being done in schools? Through distributive justice, resources and other benefits are redistributed to those who are disadvantaged. For example, the National Exceptional Teachers Disadvantaged School Program, where high-quality pre-service teachers are encouraged to participate in the program, ensuring that determined high-quality educators are placed in disadvantaged schools. Some state governments provide fully funded mentoring programs aiming to promote aspirations, engagement and school attendance in disadvantaged students. ATAR ranking is also adjusted or awarded bonus points based on level of disadvantage where the student or school is located. And breakfast clubs or emergency food provided by funding from the government provides healthy food and breakfast for students that go without. This initiative has seen an increase in school attendance, improved classroom behaviour and engagement with disadvantaged students.
We do know that there are a number of our students who come to school without any food. They've had no breakfast, sometimes they've had nothing to eat the night before, and they often don't have lunch as well. There is a need with some families. Other families can go in and out of that situation. They can be going through hard times now and again. We start what we called a breakfast club, so it would be very inclusive, so that students who didn't have any food wouldn't feel like they were targeted or stigmatised in any way. There are a large number of children who just come in for a coffee or for just a little bit of chit-chat with the other kids.
teacher, what can you do in the classroom? You could promote a safe and welcome classroom environment that focuses on tolerance and understanding. You can also teach students to be resilient, especially within tough circumstances. You can improve your own levels of empathy to help connect with students. You can also make sure that you have additional resources available within the classroom, such as pencils, paper, etc. And also make sure to create lessons and home activities that draw on very limited personal resources. I'd also like you to take a moment and think what else you think teachers can do in their classrooms. Thank you for listening to my presentation. These are my references.